the hammer.
No, you're not.
And welcome to the latest episode of Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadin. I'm Daniel McFadin, and with me as always is my good friend James Crow. Say hi, Crow.
Hello, everybody.
We are recording this on Tuesday, June 29th, 2021, 2 days after the end of the Pocono doubleheader weekend, and we will get to that here pretty soon. But first, we have a special guest this week that I'm excited to have on, and with us today is Darian Gilliam, otherwise known as Black Flags Matter on YouTube. Welcome to the show, man.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having me get on. I appreciate it. I love your guys' show, by the way.
Oh, you listen. Somebody listens, Crow.
I've seen your guys' YouTube channel. Like, just give it some time. The YouTube algorithm's like a really one to really navigate through. It takes a while.
We're 5 months into this thing, and it's still stuff I will post on YouTube and not promote at all on Twitter or anywhere has more views than stuff I actively promoted on
It's
Twitter.
Weird. It's a weird algorithm, man. It's just weird the way it works.
But yeah, I'm really let's just get into this, man. So I looked at your profile today. So you started your YouTube channel, or at least you uploaded your first video in 2017.
Yeah, so the YouTube channel. So I started it actually as soon as I graduated high school. I was kind of like, let me just try it and see what happens. This is way back in 2016. So the summer of 2016, I originally wanted to be a gaming channel. So I would just do like the old Let's Plays and stuff like that. Like, oh geez, remember that channel? Like that got up to like, I think like 50 or 70 subs. But it was like my first year in college. So like I was kind of getting overwhelmed with like the schoolwork and all that stuff. So I kind of just put it on hold for a while. And then I just eventually deleted everything because I didn't really I was like, there's a better way to do this, I think. And then all of a sudden I found other sports YouTubers like 5 Points Vids and Urinating Tree. These are really popular sports YouTubers. And basically like they kind of laid down us like the formula on like how to like present sports content on YouTube in a way that I just didn't really see it like presented that way on like the NASCAR side of things. Like I would see a bunch of like compilation videos and stuff like that. But, as far as like personalities is concerned, like the only one that really stood out even back then was Eric Estep. And now, he's like the biggest one of all of us. So so basically I was like, I can kind of do it like this, talk about the history. So yeah, I remember the date too, December 28th, 2017, the first ever upload it was about Bubba Wallace. Okay. And I was really proud of that upload too. It was just like, and I still am to this day because it was like the first ever video I ever made. I was like, yeah, it looks good. Like I like it. So, and it just took off from there. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty cool the way it's been progressing over the past 3 years, and also just meeting the amazing people along the way, including yourself. So it's been a blast.
So yeah, I guess part of the reason you're here is like I covered the Nashville race weekend a few weekends ago for frontstretch.com, and at one point I was forced off of pit road by the equivalent of a yellow shirt there and that's a reference to the people, the safe. What do you call the people in Indianapolis? The yellow shirts, they're the safety people?
Safety workers.
I don't
know, man.
But yeah, Nashville's equivalent.
I got kicked off too, man. So
Nashville's equivalent. Like some guys like you got to have a vest on. I'm like, I got a credential.
I was on pit road on Saturday, no problem, and then on Sunday, all of a sudden they changed the rules or something.
Yeah,
like that. It was a weird weekend.
So he forces me off pit road, and I'm walking back up towards the end of the pit exit, and then like you and this other group of people like are motioning me, just come over here. It's like
yeah, oh yeah, because we saw you, because we were like, dude, yeah, because we saw you get kicked out, and we were like, hey, we snuck on over here, so just come over here. But then they found us,
and that's how we met. We chatted on pit road for a little bit during the build up to the race, and like, hey, you should come on the podcast, and here we are. So also, okay, so you're from the Las Vegas area.
Yes. North Las Vegas to be exact, but I currently live like by the UNLV campus. So I'm basically like down the street from the Strip at the moment.
So born and raised Vegas, or?
So my situation's weird. So like my family is former military, Air Force and all that stuff. So like they were based out in Boston. I was born out there, lived there for like a month. And then my family's basically from like Virginia, more of like the Waynesboro and Stanton, Virginia type areas. And it's kind of funny. I would always go back and forth like during the summer. I lived my life out here on the West Coast, and then you go back there and it's just like, I asked my mom, like, how'd you grow up out here? It's so different. It's so weird. It's just a lot more quieter than I'm used to, but the one thing that drew my eye though, going back, was always like, racing and stuff like that. So yeah, so basically, like, I grew up out. I basically grew up out here my whole life, and I would basically go back. Well, some people don't consider Virginia the South, so I guess I guess I would say, for some who consider it the East Coast, I'll say the South and the East Coast. I guess back and forth basically my whole life. And one of the things that drew my eye was specifically NASCAR, and like that was the first ever sport I got into in like first grade. So
wow, okay,
yeah, watching Dale Jr. in 2004, man, like that
2004,
that was the most perfect year to get into racing ever. And
that was his bet. 04, that was his best year.
That was his best season.
That was his best year.
So basically, my expectations were always that year, but he never really progressed past that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, I died a little bit on the inside. Yeah, first grade, 2004. Oh,
wait,
God.
What grade were you in?
Fourth. I was in junior high at that point.
Oh, okay.
I was seventh grade, I think, in 04.
Yeah,
7th or 8th, right in there. So
I
had this moment early. Either last year or the year before that, I was watching an Eric Estet video, and he starts going on this monologue, and he started off a sentence like, "I have been a NASCAR fan since," and I braced myself. Okay, when? He said 2004. I was like, oh God.
See, it's crazy now that I'm like looking at the YouTube comments, and you see some of these people commenting, like they're like kids basically. They're like, hey,
yeah,
I was born in like 2010, 2011, something like really young, some of them too. And I'm like, what? Like, it's crazy. So like some of the stuff, like they're starting to learn and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see like the progression of like the whole fandom and all that.
I saw someone like posted on Reddit at some point last year, like a picture of like, not a picture or a clip of a pit stop from like the mid 2000s, and it's like, what's this can they're using at the back of the car? Like, oh, that's that
can, yes.
The catch can.
I was like, oh my God, like, damn, this is really like, that's really obsolete now. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that hasn't been around for a while. But then that's how that's one of the first things I learned when I played like the Thunder games and stuff, because they would always like make a mistake at the catch can or something like that when I'm like playing the game or something like that. I'm like, oh, like what is this extra thing? But no, that's funny.
So what's your earliest memories are of Dale Jr. in 2004?
Oh yeah, the whole 04 season. Really, the 2004 500 was like the first race I watched like from start to finish. Now that I look back, that was actually like one of the most boring 500s. Now that I look back on it, because like it was just so long, like because of the long green flag runs, I guess, and all that. They got really spread out.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically 2004 like are my earliest memories of watching the sport. And I remember Dale Jr.'s season all like from start to finish. I remember when he got like nearly lost his life in that what was it, that sports car crash at Sonoma.
Yeah.
And then him and Truex had to do a little driver swap, and he was on fire that year though. Won 6 races, but it's just every single year it's just like when you thought he would like win it and stuff like that, he just couldn't close the deal, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, 04, the year where he cursed in Victory Lane and just ruined it.
Yeah,
just ruined it all.
He got fined for that. Well, that was like one of the reasons he didn't win it. There's a multitude of reasons he didn't win it.
I'll go to my grave saying that was it. That kicked that took the wind out of the sails, and just. And now you can curse on TV and no one's gonna do anything.
Yeah, basically. And I'm still shocked that they did that to Junior. You'd think they wouldn't, but I mean, I guess they want to prove like, hey, we don't want to, give like the most popular guys peripheral treatment, I guess. So
that's the thing. Like people want to like they want. I guess the thing today is to call any like Chase Elliott win a Mickey Mouse win, like which I did.
I feed into that too, by the way.
It took me days to finally figure out what everyone was talking about with that. Like, it's
a funny meme. So basically the whole meme originated from like the whole NBA bubble.
Yeah.
Saying like because people they say LeBron James like, oh, LaFraud and stuff all the time, just like troll people and stuff like that. So he won in the bubble, and they were basically saying like oh, it's not a real championship, it's a Mickey championship, because it also took place in the Disney Orlando bubble.
Yeah.
I guess like whenever like people feel like, oh, he's not deserving or something like that, they just call it that now.
Well, so yeah, but the problem, your meme sucks if it takes the person days to figure it out. Like,
Dude,
it's not an obvious meme.
exactly, that's the point. So like people could just like say, "Oh, Mickey champion, Mickey win," this and that, and people, and then there's like a certain percentage of people, including yourself, who are just automatically confused. And I guess that's like the funny part about it too. I guess.
But anyway, like people want to say, oh, like his Coda win was like fixed or rigged or whatever. Like if NASCAR was gonna rig stuff, Dale Earnhardt Jr. would have won like 4 championships.
Yeah, he would. Well, he would have won like 8 basically, right? Because that would have been the perfect formula to get Junior 8 championships more than his father, right? So he probably would have won 8, and then Chase Elliott would have won like probably 6 or 10 or something like that. Well, it wouldn't have taken him like 3 or 4 years to win his first Cup race. That's for sure. For Chase
No. Clearly. Oh, obviously.
he would have won in his rookie season probably. Preferably, they probably would have let him win the what was it, the Daytona 500, because he won the pole that season too, his rookie year, right? Or he was like on the front row, I think. So
I'm not sure.
2016, I think so. He was like basically he was up there though, but still, then yeah, they would have let him win that one.
Yeah, the closest you'll get to ever like proving that is like that string of 5 straight Daytona 500s where the pole winner was like the pole winner you would have wanted.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's just a meme, I guess.
So okay, growing up, you're into NASCAR. Was it something that you did with your friends, or was it this thing like you liked all by yourself?
No, dude. So basically, this my whole situation is basically from like all the way from first grade all the way until my channel started to kind of take off. I knew no one else who watched NASCAR at all. I mean, basically, because like when you look at it at the big picture, you know, like, yeah, sure, my family grew up, you know, on the East Coast or South, whatever you want to call it and stuff. And like, you know, but like basically I grew up out here. So, you know, basically when I would watch racing and stuff, it would be like a family thing. You know what I mean? Like I would never go over to to a friend's house to watch a race and stuff because like, you know, they just, you know, they don't watch racing like that or whatever, like I do. So, you know, while I would talk about racing with my family and stuff, it was clear that like, you know, they were into it, but I mean, they just weren't into it as much as I was, you know what I mean? And it's just one of those things, I guess, that's so common when you like grow up down south and stuff. Is just like, you just turn on the race every Sunday and stuff, whether you're like really into it or just a casual viewer. So I think my family would fall into like kind of like it's like I guess like sort of the casual viewer in a sense, unless like basically when Junior was racing, they were really into it basically. So pretty much growing up, I would just, you know, soak in all of this like knowledge of like, you know, racing in general, of NASCAR and all this stuff. And like, you know, I would have all these opinions, but the problem is I just had nobody to talk to them about it. You know, it's just, I mean, like, I had my family, but I mean, that would only go so far. Right. So that's one of the main reasons I started the channel is because I wanted an outlet to talk about racing and stuff. And my whole thought was, hey, look, at worst case scenario, you know, somebody could say, hey, you know, your channel sucks or something like that. But hey, at least you know I like racing, right? So that was my expectations for that. So that's basically one of the main reasons I started the channel. And then I met people, started up, quickly formed up the NASCAR Weekly podcast. And I don't know, it's just been crazy. Now that I look back on like how things have gone, like the past 3 or 4 years, like I can't recreate that. It's just a plethora of events and stuff, and like it's just crazy all the events that have happened to get to this point.
So, at what point did you start to like get traction with an audience? Like, when did it start to like take off a little bit?
So that's interesting. It's so basically what I did was. So I used to be on Facebook. I got off of it years ago. It's just too toxic for me. And it basically
so you went to YouTube.
yeah. I know, right? But basically, I don't know. It's like I find YouTube to be a lot more chill. I know there are some YouTube communities that are really toxic, but as far as like the racing community on YouTube, I always found it the most chillest, just because like. I would log on to Facebook and then one post about Suarez or Bubba Wallace, and then oh my god. So on YouTube it was a lot less of that. So I was like, I like YouTube better. But I was a part of this Facebook group. They were called and this is their name. This is I didn't come up with this name. This is their Facebook name. They were called the Tricky Dicks Facebook group. Basically, this YouTuber by the name of NASCAR Nixon started this group, I guess, and pretty much I had told him like, hey, like I'm starting a YouTube channel. Like, do you mind if I like maybe post some of my early videos in the group and stuff like that? He's like, oh, sure. So I guess right away, like it kind of gave me a tiny portion of an audience, but like, anybody could have posted in that Facebook group. So just because you post in like a Facebook group doesn't automatically mean like people are just automatically going to start watching you. So like some of the people in there were giving me mixed feedback. Hey, this is good. Hey, you suck, basically. So that taught me like early on, like, hey, if you're gonna do this, you might as well, you got to take criticism, dude. So it doesn't matter whether it's warranted or not. Like people are gonna be mean to you regardless. So that basically, got me ready right away. And then I'd say about a month and a half into me doing YouTube, it started to gain traction. One day I came home from class and one of my bus videos was up to like 300 views, 400 views, and then this other one's up to 500. I was like, whoa, like what? Like, all right, get back to work. I got to get more videos out. Okay, I got to strike while the iron's hot. I have to strike while the iron's hot. And basically about 2 months in, I was already up for monetization. So it was,
wow.
It was crazy. It was just crazy the way it took off the way it did. But, it's one thing for it to take off. It's another thing for it to maintain it. So like, that was another thing. Cause like, I was totally not ready for that at all. So I was like, oh God, okay, so now I got my wish, but it's like, what do I do? Like, okay, I gotta figure out, okay, maybe do a video series talking about this driver, maybe talking about, NASCAR in this way, sort of thing. So now basically that's been the challenge for about the past 2 to 3 years, has been basically like trying to find newer and much more interesting ways to kind of present NASCAR content on YouTube. So that's appealing.
So, okay, so give us a little bit of a rundown of the different kind of videos you do. Like you just mentioned, you have the bust series. You actually have a recent video, not a bust, Steve Park, where like it was like your retraction, I'm guessing, of a previous video.
Yeah, so that's part of it. That's part of it.
So what like give us your 4 quadrants of these are the kind of like 4 videos I'm most likely going to be doing.
So I'm kind of getting out of the bus series, to be honest with you. It's just like, when I first started, like that was like my go-to. It's like, hey, let's talk about this driver. He kind of didn't meet expectations, sort of thing. But then one day I sat down with my parents and they were like, hey, you're not going to do like the bus thing. Like that's not going to be your only thing. Right. And I'm like, no, why? And then one of them went, and then my mom was like, well, just because like, it seems like it would just be like negative all the time. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, yeah, she's kind of,
I was going to say, it's like, you're kind of like beating a dead horse. Like, yes, this person was, they weren't great. And so,
yeah, I feel like whenever I do my bus videos, I try to like, I don't try and say like, oh, they were they sucked, the end. You know what I mean? Like I try to find like, a positive story into it. Like for Shane Neal, for example, too, his battle with addiction and all that stuff. He was able to overcome that. And then he unfortunately had that accident at that dirt track in 2010, unfortunately. So, obviously talking about his NASCAR career, you got to say like, hey, he was performing well and stuff, but, he also had some troubles, off the track, sort of thing. So I try to, at least incorporate a positive story into that. But basically the other series I would also do in my my first year of doing YouTube is like good seasons, bad seasons, championship seasons, which consisted of like mostly like compilations, like mostly of it consisted mostly of compilation clips, and I would talk in them sometimes, and then I would further progress into more storytelling content, like racing reference stories, and then maybe finding like some random stat line and talking about that. So like basically like that's basically what I do now. Like whatever I find interesting, I'll just I'll basically talk about it. And I'm starting to kind of venture more into like the current topics, and was talking about Larson recently and the new performances from like the next gen teams this year and all that stuff. So that's basically what I've been doing. But I don't know. I'm willing to try new things too, and I've also tried to venture over to the IndyCar side of things too. And I'm also learning a lot about that too. So it's been very interesting.
So like we were talking before we started recording, like I'm just being in all honesty, like I'm not a YouTube essay person. I'm more like I'll sit and watch like a 20-minute interview like this with someone, but for some reason I just can't get into essays for whatever reason. But Crow here is a fan of your videos. So Crow is someone who does consume his videos on a regular basis. What do you want to ask Darian?
So you kind of piqued my interest earlier when you mentioned your urinating tree. It's a hockey fan. I'm a big fan of that, obviously.
The Knights, they were so close, weren't they? The Knights, they were so close this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in St. Louis, so Blues fan, and so that's
Hey,
like half the team right now is Blues.
hey, I'm full disclosure. I am a diehard Rams fan. Even when they were in St. Louis, I supported them and stuff, and I still support them now. Obviously, I know some of the St. Louisans, they're not gonna really support them too much now.
After the Blues won the cup, they put
Yeah, they put it into that.
well, they put a flag on the parade route so that all
Yeah.
the players' cars they were riding in could drive
Mhm.
over it.
Hey,
Well,
at least they brought the city a championship. Yeah, the Rams can do that for a while, but
But yeah, so I was just curious because I know you was that kind of the inspiration for the initial kind of videos, like because you said there was some negativity there, and that's something that he does really well, is that it's negative but not like oppressively negative.
basically that was his style. I wanted to mimic a little bit when I was starting out. Like I was like, I would even kind of do the voice to a certain extent, and there were like other YouTubers I watched. There were like NBA, like basketball YouTubers, Mike Korzemba. I'm sure you know him. Like I would like use his background music initially too. If you watch like those first few videos, I definitely use that background music. He would always use in his videos, and I would also try to use the whole urinating tree style too. It's just the way he made videos, like at the time, it was like fresh, it was brand new and stuff. Like I was like, yes, this is the sports content I've been looking for. But as far as like applying it to the NASCAR side of things, that would be a much different challenge because I mean, as some of y'all know, I mean, like motorsports fans, they can, I mean, like if motorsports fans love you, they freaking love you. They're loyal and stuff like that. But when they hate you, no, they will. They're not shy in letting you know. So I was like a little concerned about that. It was like, okay, well, it was going to be this new thing. The community's like never quite seen this type of style of video, like of like NASCAR content before at the time. So I was like kind of worried about how it would be received. But hey, they seem to like it. So I'll just keep doing it.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
that's okay. So explain like your username, Black Flags Matter. I love it. It's two different things that go very well together. It stands out. So how did you settle on that as your name?
So basically, I have to go back to high school graduation. So basically, I was thinking of like a channel name basically all summer, and I don't think I thought of it until like I think late July, so around my birthday. I didn't
So
decide it.
when did you graduate?
I graduated in May, or no, excuse me, early June of 2016.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I left for school like 3 days after that too. I was in Utah for like a scholarship deal at Weber State, so I basically had to leave my family behind like 3 days after graduation. So it was basically a crazy time, and I was like settling into a new place, and I was basically like trying to figure out, hey, how in the world am I going to do this YouTube thing? So basically I settled on the name, and because like I was like, I was like, in my mind I was thinking, you're already kind of going to stand out because I mean up to that point I had never really met another African American NASCAR fan or like a
Really?
person that like literally nobody in my life
Wow.
I had ever met, and no person of color in my life had really watched racing like that, other than my stepdad, of course, but that's about it. So I was like, okay, so you're already going to stand out right away, and you might have some people who already hate you because of that anyway. So it's like, dude, you might as well just go in full force with it and like have fun with it, right? So so like I was like thinking of like I was trying to come up with a name and stuff, and then all of a sudden it kind of hit me too. I was like looking up like images, and then I had like for some reason typed in Black Flag, and it just like kind of hit, and I'm like, oh yes, like okay, so you can do a history channel and all that stuff too, but also like, this is like a funny, like little meme name that would be perfect for YouTube, Black Flags Matter, because, it's not only a clever play on words, number one, but also number two, like within the whole, within YouTube's terms of service, like they can't really, it's like, what could they take down? You know what I mean? It's Black Flags Matter. It's a racing term. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's a funny play on words and stuff like that. But obviously, motorsports fans would get like, hey, this is a motorsports channel and stuff. But I was also worried about the other side of that too, because my other thing is, well, I don't want people to get, attached to this channel and think it's like, oh, this is like some like hateful, like, oh, I'm against like BLM. You know what I mean? Like that type of crowd. I didn't want to associate with that type of crowd.
Double ironic in some way or something like that.
And also, I also didn't want people to think I was like making fun of like Black Lives Matter in any way and stuff like that too. Like, oh no, like no, absolutely not. And I've tried to basically stand on that. I've said that numerous times too. So I basically like needed to show my face and stuff like that early on to show like, hey, like no, like this is what I look like and stuff like that. Like this is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. So
yeah,
this is what the name means.
So with that username in mind, like it became somewhat relevant, last June, with everything. So can you just take us through like what was that period of time like for you at like the height of the pandemic, and then all of a sudden everything that happens post George Floyd's murder happens, and NASCAR has this huge microscope on it that without all these factors in play would never have happened. So what was June 2020 like for you?
It was crazy. And what was crazier is that, when I saw Bubba Wallace was on like First Take and stuff, I was kind of like, well, whoa, what is a NASCAR driver doing on First Take? First of all, like I was looking at that. And then all of a sudden, he was talking about basically all the stuff that was going on. And then he basically said like, yeah, I think we should have the flag banned in NASCAR. And I kind of stopped. I was like, whoa, like he really just said look, I've lived out here on the West Coast my entire life basically, and like every time I would go back, it's just crazy how different both like sides of the country are. Like it's technically called the United States of America, right? But I mean, dude, it's just so different basically, and like NASCAR has just always had that bad rep in general. It's just like, oh, it's just it's in the South, yada yada yada. It's like Confederate flags and all that stuff, and like
you'd see those flags at races in California.
Yeah, exactly. So basically. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, that was basically it. Seeing Confederate flags at NASCAR tracks was not limited to the South. It was a nationwide thing.
No. I would always see them growing up in Vegas too and stuff like that too. So basically, like I basically learned at a very early age. When I got taken to my first race weekend or like my first ever qualifying event way back in 2004. I was like 7-8 years old at the time. So like. I basically realized right away, like, okay, this sport's very different. It's not like, football, basketball. Like I recognized that really early. Yeah. So basically like, growing up, like it would be really hard to talk about NASCAR because it's like, it already has this negative stigma on the West Coast anyways, so like people like they understood like, yeah, it's like, loud, fast cars are, making, left turns and all this. Like that was what I was constantly told all the time, just all that stuff. But they would always associate this like whole Southern hatred thing, this racism thing with it, and some of it was justified, obviously. I mean, you go to the racetrack, you see this flag and stuff like that, like in my mind I'm like yeah, that's stupid, but I'm just here for the racing. But I mean, if you're visiting a racetrack for the first time and you see that, I mean, hell, that might turn you off here. I mean, I feel like I'm different in a sense just because I grew up with the sport in my life. So basically, like, I can just block out that stuff easily. I mean, for others, I mean, like, yeah, you go to a track for the first time, you see that, it's terrible. But basically, when Bubba Wallace said that, I was like, okay, so something definitely has to happen, right? And then, obviously all the George Floyd stuff was happening too. So it was a crazy month altogether. And then when they finally announced that they were going to ban it and stuff like that, I was like, what? Like, it was a sign for that. I was like, what? Like, that is something I'm still shocked they did, just because I was I was fully prepared to basically go the rest of my life like, hey, look, I might not see this for my lifetime and stuff like that, like, but I mean, like, NASCAR,
I wasn't, I never thought that was going to happen. Like if the church shooting in South Carolina in 2015 didn't do anything, NASCAR asked nicely, please stop bringing those flags, and they just kept coming. Then,
I mean, NASCAR had to do something. It's like, look, NASCAR basically like privately, like, and I tell people this all the time, like privately, like NASCAR didn't want anything to do with that and stuff, but like, obviously, from a public standpoint, I can understand, NASCAR, from a business standpoint being like, whoa, like, hey, we banned this, like, hey, what's going to happen to our bottom line here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand it from that aspect too, but, for the sake of the sport's future growth, it needed to be banned. And I'm glad it was.
Yeah. Steve Phelps said, a few months ago, it's like we were so concerned about keeping the fans that we already had that they were scared to do anything that would potentially disrupt that.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of their calculus that by banning that flag, you're potentially going to allow more people to come in to offset anyone you lose.
Now the stigma doesn't totally go away.
Oh no, it doesn't. No, it
though.
doesn't.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's gonna, but I'm really hopeful over like the next decade. What what the whole perception out here of NASCAR will be like too. You know what I mean? And also like I feel like what also helps is like just regular people like you and me also presenting the sport in a way that isn't like doesn't come from like a place of like hate and all that stuff too. Just presenting it like it should. It's a sport.
Yeah. Banning the flag was not a cure-all because two of the people I interviewed for my Black Lives Matter series at frontstretch.com a couple weeks ago, they said like, we love the sport now, and all this, but it'll probably be a while before we feel safe and comfortable going to a race at like Talladega or tracks in that part of the country.
Yeah.
So it's not a cure-all. It ripped the Band-Aid off a little bit. But yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be a while before we get to that point where people are completely 100% ready to go to any track anywhere and not feel bad about it or feel unsafe about it.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time, definitely for sure. And then also like the stuff with the whole noose thing, like that was crazy. And then I gotten an email too, basically like with my parents' address, sent and stuff like that. I was like, how'd you get this too? Like it was like that was a yeah. So I'm sorry about that. Some people might not know this. So basically like this all happened like the day of like the whole like basically like when like the whole noose stuff came out.
Yeah.
Pretty much I had gotten an email from some anonymous person. I can't remember the name. I have the screenshot saved somewhere, but basically like what happened was they had basically like sent like my parents' address, I guess. And they were like, oh, well, since you like canceling people for their beliefs, here's your address. Like, and here's the thing, that's my parents' address. Like, I mean, I had basically grew up and I had basically grown up there my whole life. And I was at my apartment at the time, and I was like basically calling them like, hey, are you guys okay? Like I'm calling the cops and all this. I'm just I had never had anything like that happen to me, so I had never really I didn't know what to do. And it happened the morning of the Talladega race. So like I was already reeling from the news, from the previous night. It was already crazy. I could barely sleep and stuff like that, just trying to keep up to date with, what the hell was going on. And then all of a sudden you wake up at like 8 in the morning and then see this email and stuff. And then it wakes you up right away. So, and then all the stuff that happened that day too, with Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney winning and all that stuff. And that is a day I will definitely never forget for sure. And that is certainly a month I will never forget, for a lot of the wrong reasons, unfortunately. But I mean, overall though, I mean, like looking back, it was crazy, but I mean, it brought us here today. I feel like the sport's in a much better place than it was, 2 years ago for sure.
Michael Jordan is a team owner. So.
I know. And so is Pitbull too. Mr. Worldwide is a team owner too. I still can't believe that. Like it's just crazy. It's crazy the people that I was like, damn, like I wish y'all would have came into the sport when I was like a kid and all that. So like it would have made it a lot better, I guess. But it's good for like, the future generation of fans to have, interesting storylines like this.
So how many times have you been able to get credentialed for races?
So that was my first time, basically.
With Nashville?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
First ever time. So I had been in the media center before. So I had interned at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for a couple of years, actually, all the way from August 2018 to February 2020, basically, before the pandemic had started. And I had gotten a chance to work under Jeff Motley and Neil Reed. Jeff Motley's he's the vice president of the Speedway, and then Neil Reed was the PR guy at the time. And he had basically shown me the ropes of like, how, racetracks conduct business and, how, things are handled in, in the media center and from a PR standpoint and all that stuff. So I really felt like it was like really good to have like, basically like, an idea of like, how things are conducted and stuff like that. So I can have an idea of like, like, hey, okay, this is the type of field you're going to go in. Okay, so this is acceptable. This isn't acceptable and stuff like that too. And obviously, as you've seen from my Twitter in the past, I've definitely learned quite a few times. I've had to learn the hard way sometimes. But yeah, I have to learn. Somehow, right? So yeah, it's gotten me to this point. So explain.
So I can remember maybe a few years ago there being like conversations in like the media center about YouTubers being credentialed, and and that legitimizes them. That makes them think they're journalists or whatnot. For you, well, no, those are conversations that would have been had by people on my side of that.
I've had those conversations with some of those people too in the past too. Yeah, I remember.
So I guess for you, what does, like, with that being your first credentialed race, what does that mean for you, in your opinion?
It's just a dream come true, man. Like, I mean, look, growing up, I knew automatically, like, look, you're never going to be able to race like that. Okay. I mean, so the next best thing would be to like either be around it in some capacity. So like, whether it be, working on the cars or like covering it is, I always wanted to do one of those two. And I'm not really like the most advanced car guy in the world. So I was like, hey, I'll just cover it, So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
I know where to put the oil.
Exactly. I know how to change a tire at least too.
That's more than me.
Oh God, I at least know that, right? But so basically, like, I wanted to always be credentialed media or like be, like sports analysts I would grow up with would be like, Stephen A. Smith or Stuart Scott, those types of guys. Like it would be cool to see like a type of guy like that in NASCAR or something like that. So like that would always be like my dream, to be like, like some type of reporter dude or something like that. And I always thought I would just go the traditional, journalism route, go to college, write for some publication, that sort of thing. And I did for a little bit. I remember, I can't remember. I think it's this college publication. It's called The Odyssey, I think. Yeah, I don't know if it's still around, but I remember like a ton of college students would be on that thing writing like blogs or like, articles and stuff. And I would write about my school's football team at the time, stuff like that too. So I was like, okay, I could do this for NASCAR and stuff. But then, once I started to get more integrated into YouTube and stuff, I was like, hey, I'll just do this. Hey, I'm already making money doing what I love already, number one. And then also like, just the challenge of like working for yourself too is like, I couldn't pass it up, man. I'm like, hey, look, you get to do it in your own way, the way you've always envisioned the sport as, and all that stuff. And, what's the worst that can happen? People are going to say mean things about you. And so tough enough. Like, of course, like, it's the internet, man. Like, you gotta, you have to have a thick skin, sometimes when you're doing YouTube, but as far as like, this whole thing where it's like, oh, YouTubers think they're like big time. Like, let me just set the record straight. Like, if you have less than 100,000 subs, like you better slow your roll. You know what I mean? Like you're certainly not going to be doing this, more than likely not going to be doing this for a living, number one. And then number two, it's really important if you do have an audience to, I don't know, just set, lead by example, basically. You know what I mean? Like there have been some times where I've gone overboard or like I'll troll too much and all that stuff too and stuff like that, but I don't think I've done anything too egregious, or like, too bad that would warrant like, oh, he should have his stuff deleted or something like that. No. I think I've made mistakes in the past and I've definitely learned from them. And, I probably will continue to make some mistakes in the future. And I don't know, like nobody's perfect, obviously, but I think this is basically the most perfect situation I could have asked for, being able to cover the sport in my own way and stuff like that. And, in front of an audience, it's just, this is the dream. This is what I dreamed about. I always thought I'd go the regular journalism route, but hey, I just happened to land this. So I'll just, make this last as long as I can.
So what was your degree in?
Oh, I'm currently going in, my degree is currently in journalism, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was always funny because like some people thought I was credentialed media like 2 years ago, but I was just working my my little internship at the time. So it would always be funny to see some of the comments saying, "Why is he in the media center? He's a disgrace," and all this stuff. And I was just like, "This is nuts." But hey, that's part of it. So
how has getting this journalism degree, how has that influenced the product you've been producing?
Oh, I still haven't gotten it yet. I have one more semester. So
but you're working on it though.
Yeah.
No, that's what I meant. Like through what you've been doing in school to get the journalism degree, how has that impacted what you've been producing lately?
It's well, I had gotten COVID way back in like early January, February, so I had to basically take the rest of the semester off, unfortunately. So I basically was behind. So I'm supposed to be graduated like by now, unfortunately. So I'm kind of in a rut just because I'm like, dang it, like I'm in that rut. It's like I'm close to graduating, but it feels so far basically. So, I basically have to get through either 1 or 2 more semesters and I'll be good. But, basically, I've learned a lot basically in my 3 years here at UNLV. It's actually my third school I've been to. I went to Weber State and I went to Weber State in all the way in Ogden, Utah, and then CSN, the local community college out here. And then I'm finishing up at UNLV, fortunately. But I've learned a lot from the programs I've done here, and not only in the journalism field, but also in the sports broadcasting, the whole TV production area too, and stuff like that. So it's been cool to learn different like techniques on how to like present content and that sort of thing. So, and it's also like interesting too, because now we have classes like on how to be a content creator. And I'm like, wait, there's specific classes to be a content creator. Like, so I'm like, I kind of have some mixed feelings on that because I'm like, well,
do you feel like you should be teaching that class?
Well, no. I shouldn't be teaching anybody. I shouldn't be teaching anybody. That's number one. But then number two, I'm like, well, is that like a thing that can really be taught? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I was never really taught that. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, I just like saw, like, hey, like, like there's a certain way to make videos and stuff like that. And it just so happened to take off. Now, I mean, as far as teaching that, I'm kind of like, yeah, like I don't know, but maybe I should take a class and see what it's like before I leave. But yeah, the point is though, I've learned a lot here and stuff. But as far as school though, bro, I hate school so much.
Everyone hates school. It's the stuff it's the stuff you do when you're outside of class. It's fun.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Like going to races, covering it, and all that stuff. That's great.
So you've put up 3 videos in the last week. Not a Bust, Steve Park, revisiting Kyle Larson, and today the Riley Herbst experience. You posted that 4 hours ago, and it's already up to 5.6 thousand views.
Oh, is it? I hadn't checked.
That's already up to 5. So how much time do you actually devote to one video typically?
So it varies. So basically, the way I used to do it back in the day was I would always get it done in like a day. So like I would like wake up, download all the clips I want, and then edit them, do the audio and stuff, and then upload it the same day. Nowadays, I just like basically like the day before I decide to upload, I pretty much just like sort out all the clips, and then like I'll like cut them down pretty much, and then I'll do the audio the very next day, and then immediately upload it afterwards. So like I don't know, I don't want to like basically like. I don't want to have burnout because I've seen other content creators have that. They'll just put out a ton of videos in like a week span, or like the way they make it is like just super hard on them and stuff mentally. So like I just want to make sure I definitely spread out my content for sure.
So do you do like scripts first, or do you download the video first? Like,
so basically I download the video first. And what's interesting about my content, I've never written a script in my life. I've never written a script ever. So what I do is I basically like, it's weird. It's like, I'll basically like kind of like formulate in my head what I want to say. And then I'll like maybe do like 1 or 2 sentences at a time. And then like, okay, hit stop. And then like think of what else I'm going to say and then hit stop. Like, I don't know. I don't know why. Like I could write scripts, but I feel like well, I can already make the videos without writing them. So I feel like it's easier that way.
Like the only videos I've done so far that are kind of like yours, like I did one, I did one when Truex made his Xfinity start earlier this year, and it was his first since 2007. Okay. So I did like a video. It's like this is what was going on in NASCAR like at that time. Like this is how long it's been, and like I did the script first, and I tailored all the other content to that, and so it was like a 3-minute video. So. I think, yeah, that'd be my personal preference. Do the script first and then get the stuff that's tailored to said script. So, but that's as close as I got to you. So, yeah, like, oh, sorry, Crow. Go ahead.
Oh, I do think that style. So I'm currently a software developer, but I've come from a media production background. And that's, I kind of picked up on how your production process worked more or less, like, no script. But it gets a really good, like conversational tone. And so it's, I don't know. It makes everything's a lot more palatable, and but it's still informal. It feels like someone's telling you, a story about a driver.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's always interesting because like I don't think I've ever really asked people like, hey, like how does this sound like with the script or without the script and all that stuff. So it's good to have that perspective. Yeah. Like the other side of that phrase is that on NASCAR Reddit, they definitely know I don't do scripts and they're very vocal and they're like, oh, this video would have been better if you would have done scripts and all that. Like NASCAR Reddit's that's a very interesting place we got to deal with sometimes too. But
I know. I know. Personally, I know. So, what's on your docket right now? Like, what projects are you working on?
The way I do projects is like I don't really like plan anything out like in advance like too often. It's like, well, like it's basically whatever I feel like making during the week. So basically like, the whole Riley Herbst video came up because he had just I just seen a stat line, only 4 top 10s in that 98 car, and that 98 car won 9 races a season ago. Like, look, like, listen, I know Stuart Haas is struggling in the Cup Series, but in Xfinity, come on, like that's a much different story here. Like, that car should be performing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, both were doing good last year, and now
Yeah.
both aren't doing good this year.
Exactly.
So,
So, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I don't think Riley Herbst is like, the worst driver in the world and stuff. But I mean, at the same time, though, it's like, I don't have a problem with anybody furthering their career and using the resources at their disposal. And clearly Riley Herbst has a ton of resources, but at the same time, when you are in, top flight equipment like that, consistently, you got to get the job done at some point here. I mean, and looking at the point standings, he's like below guys like Ryan Sieg, Brendan Brown. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Those are 2 talented drivers, but I mean, Riley Herbst's equipment suggests that he should be way, way up there.
Oh no! Well, those other 2 drivers have proven that they can at times get more out of the equipment than any other driver probably would. Kind of like a Ross Chastain. Herbst finished second to Harrison Burton at Auto Club last year.
I was there. I was like, hey, yeah. I was like, hey, he did good.
And then I think there was another. I think he finished second one other time.
He had 4 top 10s, or no, excuse me, 4 top 5s in total last year, and also a total of 17 top 10s. I mean, decent numbers, but I mean, in Joe Gibbs' Xfinity equipment, come on, like it's got to be better than that, right? So.
Oh no, same thing. Daniel Hemrick has the same problem, though. I would rather have Daniel Hemrick in that car personally.
Yeah, exactly. Like Hemrick's consistent. He just can't close the deal in terms of like wins yet.
Speeding penalties. He had 2 winning cars this year. Speeding penalties.
Just can't get it done yet. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into Pocono, guys. So we had our second ever Pocono doubleheader. Race 1. I really liked race 1. That had a lot of chaotic energy to it. Mostly thanks, pit strategy and all that, which I'm not very good at following pit strategy. Like if it involves math, I can't do it.
Yeah, luckily the broadcast team had us covered though.
Yes,
NBC.
yes, but I think we all assumed that when Kyle Larson got past Bowman with 4 laps to go, it was over.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't over. Cuts a tire going into turn 2, coming out turn 2, and then hits the wall, and Bowman streaks by and gets the win. So Crow, first off, you didn't know there was a race Saturday.
Apparently, a lot of people didn't know on Twitter either. They're like, "Wait, there's a race?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's been a Pocono doubleheader planned for a while now."
Yeah. So Crow, as someone who didn't know there was a race Saturday until I told him after the race, I'm assuming you've gone back and watched at least highlights of Saturday's race. What'd you think?
Yeah, I watched the Saturday race. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would for Pocono. There's a lot going on. The Kyle Larson thing was definitely like crazy. Because he was just again ridiculously fast. Not as dominantly fast as he has been, obviously. But yeah, that blown tire, man.
Well, I was looking down at my laptop on that last tap, and all of a sudden I hear, like, I guess the announcing crew go, "Whoa!" It was like, what's going on? And then look up, and there's Larson just heading for the wall. It's like, okay, that's not supposed to happen, but it's happening.
The crazy thing is that it wasn't a replay. They were just watching him because he was in the lead. Yeah. And so you just got to see everything happen and the actual live reaction to it. So it was really cool on that part, not for him,
Yeah, that was a crazy finish. Like I was like looking, I was like watching and stuff. I was about to tweet Larson wins, fourth consecutive race since Johnson 2007, right? And
Yeah.
then like I had seen like a couple of sparks, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? And then Junior was like, oh, he's got a flat. I'm like, holy shit, he's got a flat tire, like he really does. And then Bowman just skedaddles onto another win. Like Alex Bowman, man, that his story, man, like. He found out about his firing from Tommy Baldwin Racing in I believe it was 2016 on Twitter while he was
Yeah.
working out. And then
Yeah.
now he's won multiple races for Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. So it's crazy to how fast his career has taken off since then.
Oh no! It's insane. Like I wrote this week at Front Stretch, on my weekly column, like how well do you remember 2017? Well, if you're Alex Bowman, you remember a lot because you weren't even racing that year. Because he aside from a couple of races with Ganassi and one truck race, he was the simulator jockey for Hendrick Motorsports. And that same year, Ryan Blaney is racing. He gets his first win at Pocono. And here we are 4 years later. They each have 5 wins. Like if I had told you in 2017, Darian, that in 4 or 5 years, Alex Bowman and Ryan Blaney will each have 5 Cup wins.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay. Like, all right, that's funny. Yeah, nobody saw that coming at all. Nobody.
And one thing I like is that it's proven that Alex Bowman is proving it's not a fluke. Like he and his team are putting themselves in the position on somewhat regular basis this year to take advantage of Kyle Larson problems. So like 3 of his wins have involved having to get by Kyle Larson. At Chicagoland, they had their duel 2 years ago. That was win number 1, and then earlier this year at Dover, he gets the lead thanks to having the best pit stop of the year up to that date. And now you have this with Kyle Larson sailing off into turn 3 and hitting the wall.
Yeah, it's great to see Hendrick this dominant again. I mean, it's been since basically they had put up a stat line. Like they're on pace to basically like eclipse what they had in the amount of wins they had in 2014, which is basically like the last time they had like, I think, what was it, like 10, 11, 12, 13 wins in a season, something like that. Like they're definitely going to probably surpass that this year. And I mean, it's just cool to see a team. Like, I mean, Larson blows his tire, but then you have, the next man up. Immediately he's able to step up and, still secure the team of victory. So
it was hilarious in his post-race press conference. Alex Bowman was like, said he was talking to his team on the radio, and it said, "I'm sorry, guys." And as soon as those words were out of his mouth, Larson's
just
cut. It's like, wait, what?
Like I gave it up. Like, you gotta take him. You gotta take him any way you can, man.
So I didn't get to really watch Sunday's race. I was out hanging out with a friend that I hadn't seen in months.
Sundays, it was very interesting, man.
I had to go back and watch highlights.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of Sunday's race won by a Kyle Busch with only 1 gear?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this package and stuff, but like,
oh, okay,
like for this race, it was like one of those rare races that I definitely love with this package, and Pocono is typically a track I'm not really the most fond of, but
yeah,
the races this weekend though were spectacular, and on Sunday I was like, yeah, no, this is good. Like, I mean, the strategy that was taking place towards the end, I was like, please no caution. I mean, because ever since NASCAR has implemented stage racing, like the amount of like field strategy races is basically diminished. Like, I mean, outside of that race on Sunday, like when was the last time we had like a field mileage race, like that? Like what was it, like Pocono 2015? Like probably
Austin Dillon's first win in the Coke 600.
Oh yeah, 2017. Yeah, 2017. That's right.
Like that, I mean, that's the last one I remember. I'm sure there's been others since.
Yeah,
but that's the one that I remember.
Yeah, I'm sure there has. It's just like it's been a minute since I've seen one at Pocono like that, but. No, I mean, like it was crazy because like I was looking at like some when the guys were stopping and all that, and you would see, okay, Kozlowski's got to pit, and then Harvick's got to pit, and okay, Bubba, he doesn't have to pit, he might make it, and then Byron, like they thought they were good, but apparently they were like 3 laps short. I was like, you weren't even close. I was like, what are you like? What? Like they gotta let him. And I guess there was like miscommunication with him and his team on like when exactly to save and stuff. And I'm like, damn, it must not have been that close. I mean, it was 3 laps short. So how close could it have really been if you communicated to that to him properly? But it was great to see Bubba Wallace finally come through. 2311, like 2311 is interesting, man. Like I feel like if they would just keep their mouths shut, they would be a lot better off, but they have to say, no, we're going to get a couple of wins this year. No, you're not.
Bubba never said we're going to get 2 wins. He said, I think, he said we're capable of getting 2 wins.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
I know there's a difference. It's just like there's this perception thing with them and stuff. Like you look at Trackhouse and they didn't say a word, and like they were the only next gen team with with the top 5 and a top 10 finish all for most of the season, and then now all of a sudden 23XI has stepped it up, and now they're only 6 points behind Trackhouse in the standings. Both are 19th and 20th in the standings, so that's been a very interesting battle, because typically first year teams, and this, Daniel, then they don't just come in and start running well right away and stuff. So
the last team to win in its first year of existence was Hendrick Motorsports in 1984.
Yeah, exactly. So look, dude, you got teams that have been here for decades upon decades, so nobody's just going to come in and start reeling in top 5s, top 10s like that. But I feel like if Jordan and Bubba would just be a little bit more husher on the performance side of things, they'd be a lot better off and stuff. But now we're starting to see some of the results come to fruition. Their only problem this year is they just haven't been able to finish the races. We've seen they've had top 15 speed, but they just can't close the deal, and they finally did it.
Well, they've had some horrible luck. Many points this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I think I've said it on this podcast before. Like, comparing what Trackhouse has been able to do to 23XI isn't exactly fair, because 23XI's operating out of their own building, far away from Joe Gibbs Racing. People want to say, oh, it's basically just a fifth JGR team. Not really. No. That team didn't exist.
Isn't it basically? It's basically a rebatched version of Levine Family Racing, isn't it? With like a lot of some of the same people and all that stuff, right?
I don't know about that, but they're getting way more Toyota support than the Levine Family Racing was getting. But they're in a completely separate building. They're operating out of Germain Racing's old shop, not the one they were in at RCR, but even before that, it's like an old Germain Racing shop.
Okay.
Trackhouse Racing is basically a third RCR car. That stuff's built in their shops at RCR. So they're just throwing out a third team, but it's called Trackhouse Racing.
Gotcha.
So that's what it's not a fair comparison between the two teams at all. So
yeah, it's just the whole perception thing though. Just some of the talk they were saying like, hey, we're gonna do this and that. I'm like, look, guys, it's your first year. Just go out there, run some laps, get some experience, and see what happens. Like, my ceiling for 23XI this year was like, hey, best case scenario, a playoff team, 15th or 16th seed, and the worst case scenario, like below the top 30 in points or something like that. So, they're basically running around right where I figured they'd be all year. It's just like, as far as, scoring that first top 5 and top 10, that was like, dang, it's like, oh, like you thought they would get it this race, and then, it didn't happen. And, now it's happened now.
Yeah, my perception has been that they kind of, like what you're saying with the talk, I feel like they've got that pressure now, and they've taken more risks than they otherwise would have, and they've had bad luck with all those risks. So hopefully things for the rest of the season kind of level out for them, and they can just run more consistently and just work on getting higher and higher up in the standings.
But Bubba's has already accomplished a lot of career stuff this year. Led the most laps of his career at Martinsville, got his first stage win, and now they got a top 5. That his it's kind of funny. His two top 5s that haven't been at Daytona have come at Indianapolis and Pocono, which are very similar tracks in a sense. So I find that interesting.
Yeah.
He improved at road courses. He clearly was running better at Sonoma, but had that tire problem. So
he finished 14th though. He came back.
I know.
Back, so
that was his best road course finish. Mm-hmm. So there are definitely a lot of highs that they can take home. It's like, yes, we did that. That was great. But yeah, they still got a ways to go. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think New Hampshire will be interesting for them, because that's kind of like a big Martinsville. and he's good at Martinsville.
He led laps there earlier this year, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
So-
very intrigued by that track as well.
So what did you think of Sunday's race, Crow?
I didn't get to watch it as closely as
Okay.
as the Saturday one, but
Well, I was watching from a bar, and there was no audio on the TV, so I'm just like, okay.
What's going on? Like, I
so,
don't know what's
like,
going on.
two laps to go. Hamlin and Bush are like racing each other. It's like, oh, this is gonna be a good final lap, and then all of a sudden Hamlin peels off the pit road. Like, wait,
they
no.
pushed it too hard. Yeah, they were like trying to decide, like, okay, do I race now or do I keep saving and stuff? And they pushed it just a tad bit too hard there, unfortunately.
So I wasn't even aware of Bush's like transmission problems at the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when I found about that later, I was like, oh, that's impressive. Okay.
Oh, so you didn't hear him sing on the radio too?
No, I watched the highlights yesterday, and that's when I heard I'm gonna fly like an eagle.
Yeah, it's not too often you hear them sing on the radio, but only
Especially Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I know. Basically, yeah, you hear him singing a different tone, that's for sure. But yeah.
All right, Crow, what time is it? Right. McDowell watch. Yes, please laugh at that, Darian. It's embarrassing, but it's what we got.
That's an awesome intro, though. I like
that. So Michael McDowell, our intrepid Daytona 500 champion, finished 19th in the first race Saturday at Pocono Raceway, but because of that, he got to start second the following day at Pocono. He led 7 laps.
Yeah, he led some laps. I was like, hey, let's go.
Yeah, I didn't. I should have looked it up. That might be his career best.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
I would assume that is maybe.
Like he didn't like inherit that lead or anything. He like during green flag stops. He just like there was a bad Busher got a bad restart and went up there and led 7 laps.
Yeah.
Then he finished 17th. So I don't know where he is in the points. I should have looked that up. Hold on a second while I do exactly that.
I think he's the last of the winners at this point. I think
is he still 16th?
Yeah,
still
I think.
16th?
Well, no. Technically, he would be like 11th, basically. Right?
Oh well, yeah. If you're going by the playoff.
Yeah, but in the regular standings, I think he is 16th or 17th though. Still.
Yeah. He has been there for weeks.
I mean, at least he's shown the speeds there, because as soon as he won, I was like, oh, it's going to be a wasted playoff. But not necessarily. I mean, he has shown some dark horse speed. So
no, he is actually 17th. So he has lost a spot.
So he's right around there. So basically, he does have some type of playoff speed, I guess.
But he is ahead of Suarez, Stenhouse, Bubba, DiBenedetto, Ross Chastain, Ryan Preece, Ryan Newman, Chase Briscoe, Eric Jones, Eric Almirola, and Cole Custer. So that just tells you how rough of a year Stewart Haas Racing.
No, I was about to say, yeah, Stewart Haas Racing. Jeez, below it. That was something we couldn't have predicted early in the season. That's for sure.
So yeah, but McDowell, he apparently like 24. So someone tweeted out like all the drivers in the Cup field who have experience at Road America, and I think it's like 28, something like that. So well over half the field. And Michael McDowell's one of them. He has 5 career Xfinity starts at Road America, including his first NASCAR win.
That's right.
With Richard Childress Racing. So he has some experience there. It'll be interesting. That really could. There's unfortunately not a road course or a super speedway in the first round of the playoffs. But if he can like somehow just get a couple more playoff points at here, Indianapolis, I mean that could go a long ways.
Hey, he could win one of these road course races, because how many road courses do we have left? Like 3 or 4 left on the schedule?
Two in the regular season.
Okay.
No, wait. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong.
3.
We got Road America, Watkins Glen, and
in the Indy road course, correct?
So we got 3. So we got 3, and then you have the Roval in the playoffs, and that's the second round.
Okay.
Which is also in that round of Talladega. So the 2 tracks that Michael McDowell would really like to be in the first are actually in the second.
I'm sure in one of these races he will at the very least compete for a victory, at least in one of them. I'm sure.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So you're going to be at Road America?
Yes, I'll be there. So will Eric Estep and also Jared, aka the Iceberg, will be there this weekend as well. So yeah, if you guys see us, just say what's up. I mean, from what I hear, this track is like 4 miles long. So like,
oh yes, it is 4. Yes,
it's gonna be like a lot of walking basically involved, to get around and basically all that stuff. So it's gonna be definitely a workout weekend. That's for sure. So it's gonna be fun.
I've always wanted to visit Road America because I discovered it, watching old VHS tapes of IndyCar races back in the 90s. I watched those a lot, so I've always wanted NASCAR to go there, and I've always wanted to go there.
Yeah, I've always suggested for I've always wanted the Cup Series to go here too, and finally make it happen. So it's cool. I mean, to go to the Nashville race and now to the first ever Cup Road America weekend too, that's going to be fun. I always figured the first race I'd see for 4th of July weekend would always be the Daytona event and stuff like that. But I mean,
yeah,
like that's the traditional fan in me that wants the Daytona July race back. But hey, it's the regular season finale, so hey, it's somewhat entertaining. So I know what NASCAR's doing. I know what they're doing.
I'm not a person that's like really tied to dates and race dates, except for the 500.
That's about it. But anything else is basically on the table. It's like
like
stuff.
Southern 500 on Labor Day.
See, I never grew up with that. See, I never grew up with it. So like basically like like the Southern 500, I'm kind of don't care. But then like that 4th of July weekend, that was like always something about Daytona on that weekend. During that week too. I don't know why. It's just like
I don't think that the Daytona's going back to July 4th. Having it as the finale.
It's good. It's good.
Last year's race was very good.
Yeah, and this year's race is going to be even better probably.
So but yeah, so how many tracks have you been to, Darian?
So now, for a long time, it was just Las Vegas for a long time there. But then since 2019, since meeting up with some of the YouTube buddies, during these race weekends, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'd say about 8 different tracks I've been to up to this point so far. So it's been cool doing this whole, this little YouTube deal, able to travel around to races like this. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Well, yeah, you mentioned you expected to go to Daytona for a July 4th race. Like, I never expected that I'd go to a Nashville race before I covered a bunch of other races. Like, I've never been to Richmond. I've never covered a race at Talladega. I've been to race at Talladega, never covered one. Never covered a race at Daytona. Never covered a race at Atlanta. But I go to Nashville first.
Yeah.
So it was really weird.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because basically that was like my first ever, official credentialed media. So like basically took place on that weekend. So it's kind of cool that, the first Nashville race weekend back for the Cup Series tied in with my deal too. Like, so it's always cool. I'll always have that memory with me. It's awesome.
So you're not a fan of the 550 package?
No, I mean, like, just because, like, I want a package where, that has the best of both worlds, that, incorporates, a lot of horsepower and all that stuff. But also I want these cars to, I want the Cup Series to be really hard to drive. I mean, it's the top echelon of stock car racing. So I don't want these cars to be, just easy and stuff. I mean, these guys are getting paid how much? So yeah. I want them to be challenged, a little bit. I mean, that's what I grew up on, in the whole Gen 4 era too. I thought the Gen 4 was not perfect at all. Like some of these like other fans talking about it, they'll like speak of it like it was like the holy grail or something. Like, no, the Gen 4 had problems too. Trust me. Like it had a lot of aerodynamic problems for its time too. Like, but I mean, at least during that era, like the best of the best, rose to the top and stuff. Like nowadays, I mean, with some of these races with this 550, with this 510 or 550 horsepower package, it's like it really depends on like track position. I find, like a lot of these races depend on like track position rather than, working your way back up, up to the front. So whenever there's a 750 race, I obviously hold those in higher regards than the, the other ones. Definitely.
Well, it's weird because like Jeff Gluck posted like, he does his good race, bad race poll every Monday. And he posted like the results so far this year to today. And four of the races in the top 10, including the number 1 race, were 550 races.
Yeah, so it's weird. It's a weird situation because
it works at Vegas, which was number 1.
Yeah, it does.
Vegas, Homestead, the Pocono, and Kansas. Those are the races, like freshly paved D-shaped ovals, and the tracks with long straight away.
And also the weather too, to an extent, has to be like somewhat like cloudy or something like that for more passing or something. I think there's some type of weather aspect.
maybe partly cloudy.
Partly cloudy or something like that. Yeah, some type of weather thing. But yeah, it's weird, like, because the fan base is hammered. Like some of the parts of the fan base are like, oh, 750 horsepower package everywhere, but then you go look at the Gluck poll results and it's like you said, for the top 10 or 550. So it's like it's weird. Like it's another case of
It doesn't work at Charlotte. It doesn't work at Atlanta.
No, exactly.
Old tracks, old unpaved 1.5 mile tracks with tri-ovals.
Yeah,
no.
it's just another thing for the fan base to be divided on, and sometimes NASCAR fans have a tough time of knowing what they want as is, and I've been there sometimes too. I mean, I'm still a fan at the end of the day, so sometimes hey, I might want this, but then other times I don't, but I don't know. As far as like I feel like for any type of package NASCAR unveils, like I feel like the driver is obviously the most important part of that package. Like I want their talents to shine. I want to see it like to me it really doesn't matter to me if like Larson or like Kyle Busch win every race and stuff, because it's like the best of the best, right? So hey, if they're the best of the best, then they're winning every race and stuff, then hey, that's just racing to me. So
yeah, I mean, regardless of the package, you're like, if it's a 750 race, there's going to be races where the winner just can't be touched, like Truex at Darlington. Like that was a pure 750 race, and he was gone.
Like, I liked it. I loved it. I loved the race. I loved the race the whole time.
It wasn't a bad
like
race.
12, 13 seconds, but I mean, that's just the difference between motorsports fans nowadays. Like, I feel like we have that younger subsection of fans that are like, that are like, oh, we want entertainment, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then you got like other racing fans who like, just like want to stick to, just the pure racing, pure driving, no gimmicks and all that stuff. So it's kind of it's funny seeing both sides of the fan base clash.
The argument from some people saying NASCAR cares too much about being entertainment. Well, you want people to watch.
Yeah,
right?
Of course you understand. Yeah. Obviously, you have to make it somewhat gimmicky. I think, especially nowadays, to get some of the fan base's interest. But yeah, like as far as the package is concerned, that's a whole nother ordeal. It's just like I hope with this next gen car they finally get it right. Hopefully.
We'll find out. I mean, they haven't even decided like what the horsepower will be for that car.
Yeah,
so
no, we'll see.
What's your take on the battle of the packages, Crow?
That's a little bit out of my knowledge base.
I'm not a technical person, but I sure have an opinion.
I try to be. Yeah, I try to be. Right.
All right. So tell everyone, Darian, where everyone can find your stuff.
So first of all, thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So you guys can follow me. You guys can find me on YouTube. Black Flags Matter is the name of the YouTube channel. Also on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's Black Flag Matter. I couldn't put the flags because I guess there's a character limit on there. So it's just one letter away, but it's basically Black Flag Matter on there. But just look at Black Flags Matter and it'll probably pop up on those platforms. But really appreciate all of the love and support I've been getting over the past few years, and really appreciate you having me on your show and stuff. I've been watching it for a little bit too. So like I said, I mean, the YouTube algorithm's really tough to navigate and stuff, but just give it some time. Trust me, this show is really good. It'll definitely take off.
Thanks.
Appreciate
it.
But
yeah, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Daniel McFadin. You can follow Crow at DTH Crow. Have you had any shenanigans on NASCAR Twitter, Crow?
No, I took a break from my already low amount of activity because it just got a little bit too dramatic for me.
Yeah, it's a bit too much sometimes. So yeah, just duck and cover whenever you need to on NASCAR Twitter sometimes.
All right, and you can also follow us on YouTube as well at youtube.com/Daniel McFadin. No catchy name, just Daniel McFadin. And follow us on Patreon if you want at patreon.com/Daniel McFadin. The lowest tier is $3 in case you like what you're hearing here. Shoot. Crap. Hold on. Is my back?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I accidentally unplugged it. Okay. So, and I also unplugged my light. But oh well. But yes, follow patreon.com/Daniel McFadin. Throw $3 if you like it. Read my weekly column at friendstretch.com. So yeah, but that's it. Thank you everyone for listening this week. Thank you, Darian, for coming on and teaching us about the world of NASCAR YouTube. So yeah, we'll be back next week. So thanks for listening. Bye everyone.
Goodbye.